Chief Tunde Adewale, a name that echoed through the lavish halls of Lagos's elite, was a man carved from arrogance and gold. To him, money wasn't just power, it was a god. It bought loyalty, bent wills, and commanded respect. He sneered at the very mention of family, believing love was a currency for the weak, a foolish transaction he was too smart to make. His heart was a vault, sealed tight against any sentiment that couldn't be measured in naira. Years before his empire reached its dizzying peak, a project took him to the quiet, humble village of Nsukka. There, amidst the royal mansion he was developing, he saw her, Amaka Okorie. She was simple, her beauty as natural as the morning sun, her spirit untouched by the city's greed. Her innocence drew him in, a curiosity he couldn't resist. But when he approached her with his usual display of wealth and charm, she barely noticed him. Her indifference was a slap to his ego, a challenge he was determined to conquer. He began his pursuit, a relentless campaign of charm and empty promises. He painted a future of luxury, whispered words of marriage, and swore to lift her from her simple life. Slowly, Amaka's walls crumbled. She saw a man, not a monster, and began to trust the future he offered. She gave him her heart, believing his words were true. But his intentions were dark. One evening, under the guise of celebration, he drugged her drink. He took her innocence, and, with it, her faith in humanity. When she confronted him, her heart shattered and her voice trembling, he didn't offer an apology. He simply tossed a thick envelope of cash at her feet, his expression cold and dismissive. Without a word, he turned his back and walked away, leaving her broken on the ground, his betrayal a permanent stain on her soul. Weeks turned into a heavy, sinking dread. Amaka discovered she was pregnant. Her world tilted on its axis. When her parents found out, the shame was too much for her father to bear. He gave her an ultimatum: produce the man responsible within 2 market days or be cast out from their home forever. Panic-stricken, she scraped together what little she had and raced to Lagos, desperately searching for Tunde. But he was a ghost, having already vanished back into his world of steel and glass. She reached his mansion, only to be thrown out by his security guards, another piece of trash on his pristine lawn. With nowhere to go, she slept on the cold, unforgiving streets of Lagos, her hope dimming with each passing night. Just as she was about to give up, a glimmer of kindness appeared. Mama Ngozi, a woman who sold food from a small stall, found the pregnant, starving girl and saw not a disgrace, but a daughter. She took Amaka in, wrapping her in a warmth she thought she'd never feel again. With Mama Ngozi's unwavering support, Amaka slowly began to piece her life back together. In that tiny, love-filled home, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl she named Adaora, which means daughter of the people. Mama Ngozi was a grandmother to Adaora, showering her with affection as Amaka worked tirelessly. But life dealt another cruel blow. Mama Ngozi fell ill, and her own children took her away to the village for care, leaving Amaka and little Adaora to fend for themselves. But Amaka was no longer the broken girl from Nsukka. She was a mother. She took over Mama Ngozi's food stall, her hands working from dawn till dusk. Every meal she sold a promise to her daughter for a better life. Adaora grew up in the steam and spice of the food stall, a bright, kind, and incredibly ambitious child. She saw her mother's sacrifice in every line on her face, in the calluses on her hands. One evening, she took her mother's hands in hers and made a solemn vow. "Mama, one day, I will be a doctor. I will take away all your pain." Years flew by, fueled by that promise. Adaora studied with a fierce determination, her mother's love her constant motivation. True to her word, she graduated at the top of her class and became Dr. Adaora, a respected physician at one of Lagos's most prestigious private hospitals. While Adaora was rising, Chief Tunde Adewale was falling. Karma, it seemed, had a long memory. His vast fortune couldn't stop the decay within his own body. His kidneys began to fail. His young, beautiful wife, who had married him for his money, saw only a sick, dying man. She packed her bags and deserted him without a second glance. Alone, frail, and terrified, the great Chief Tunde was admitted to a hospital, his life hanging by a thread. Fate, with its wicked sense of irony, placed him in the very same hospital where Dr. Adaora worked. And so, the daughter he never knew he had became his attending physician. To Adaora, He was just another patient, a wealthy but desperately ill man named Tunde Adewale. She treated him with the same compassion and professionalism she gave everyone. One day, while on the phone with her mother, she mentioned the name of her high-profile patient. The name hit Amaka like a physical blow. She dropped everything and rushed to the hospital, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm of fear and rage. She walked into the private room, and her eyes met his. Time stood still. Decades of pain, betrayal, and sorrow flooded the space between them. In that instant, Adaora looked from her mother's stricken face to the sick man in the bed, and the devastating truth crashed down upon her. The man whose life she was trying to save was her father, the monster who had abandoned her mother. Amaka collapsed, a storm of tears and bitter rage finally breaking free. "Let him die," she screamed, her voice raw with decades of suppressed agony. "He left us to die on the streets. Why should you save him?" Her anger was a fire, and she wanted it to consume him. But Adaora looked at the pathetic, dying man before her, and she saw not a monster, but a lesson. She saw a chance to break the cycle of hate. Over her mother's furious protests, she made a choice. She would donate her own kidney. "I'm not doing this for him, Mama," she said softly, her voice filled with a strength that defied her years. "I'm doing this for us, to prove that our love is stronger than his hate." The day of the surgery arrived. Amaka, her heart a tangled mess of emotions, walked beside her daughter into the hospital. But as they reached the surgical ward, a grim-faced doctor stopped them. There had been a complication. Chief Tunde had passed away peacefully that morning. The news struck Adaora with an unexpected force. She fell to her knees, a sob escaping her lips. She wasn't just crying for the life that was lost, but for the life that never was. She was crying for the word she would never get to say: "Father." Weeks later, a letter arrived from a law firm requesting a meeting. Confused, Amaka and Adaora went to the lawyer's office. It turned out that in his final, lonely days, Chief Tunde had done the one decent thing in his life. Confronted by his mortality and perhaps haunted by his past, he had signed legal documents. He had left his entire fortune, his companies, his estates, his billions, to the two people he had wronged so deeply. The woman he had discarded and the daughter he had never met were now the inheritors of his entire legacy. With their newfound wealth, the first thing they did was return to Nsukka. They walked back into the home Amaka had fled in shame all those years ago. When her father saw her, he fell to his knees, his own tears of regret washing away years of pride. He begged for her forgiveness. For the first time, Adaora met her grandparents. In that emotional reunion, the broken pieces of their family finally began to heal, held together by forgiveness and unconditional love. The story of Chief Tunde became a quiet legend, a reminder that all the money and power in the world mean nothing without love. He abandoned his family for wealth, but in the end, his life, his legacy, and his soul's final redemption all depended on the compassion of the daughter he never knew. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores the deepest corners of the human experience.